A recent survey done by the Ministry of Consumer Affairs dubbed the real estate sector as the second worst industry after telecom in India in terms of quality of service. Well, all we can say is at least it's number 2. The sector is marred by execution delays, sluggish sales, and an all-time low buyers' confidence. Now, with the Parliament passing Real Estate Regulator Bill, home buyers have some hope that the regulator will pave the way for more organized, fair, credible and transparent property transactions. Is the sector now a step closer to getting an industry status? What could be the challenges in the implementation of the bill? Joining me today from Bengaluru is JC Sharma, VC and MD, Sobha Limited. And also from Delhi, Gaurav Karnik, National Leader for Real Estate and Infrastructure Practice EY, and Ashok Chhajjar, Chairman and Managing Director, Arihant Superstructures. Under the Central Act, the states will have to set up the regulatory authority. NDTV has also learned from the Housing Ministry sources that this is likely to be done in the next 5 to 6 months. Once the regulator is in place, all the approval sanctioning authorities at the local level will be given a timeline to comply with. Gaurav, I'm going to come to you first. If you read the fine print, I mean, over the last 5 days since Rajya Sabha has passed, and it was a given that Lok Sabha is going to pass it, the biggest challenge has been that, what really happens? How do you hold ULBs responsible for approvals? But the fine print in the bill, does that give you confidence that ULBs will also be brought into this regulatory framework at state level?
Yeah, so I think first of all, this bill is very welcome from both institutional investors as well as the consumers because it will bring in a lot of transparency, and we are hopeful that in the rules that will be set up in the future by the RERA in the various states, they will try and look at single window clearance and try and bring the local bodies into this net and trying to get this approvals in one place and also set up the timelines for the same. So we are hopeful that in the rules that will come up, they will take care of this.
Okay. Mr. Sharma, I think the biggest hurdle that the industry faced and said you can't just hold developers accountable. Do you think at state level this is something that has clearly been enunciated, and the message has gone out from the Housing Ministry that you will have to set timeframes for approvals at every stage, even at the municipal level? Are you comfortable with the kind of message you're hearing?
We are basically quite comfortable. We need to realize that we work in a federal structure, and even now also the land and the approval will always be the prerogative of the state government and their authorities. Central government would not have passed a bill where it would have overlapped with their authorities. What they are doing, according to my understanding, is that whatever central government approvals are concerned, they would make it much more easier and transparent than what we are undergoing today. So one of our major complaints about, say, environmental laws, it gets addressed simultaneously. Coming back to this issue also, we have been deliberating with the local governments wherever we are operating through CREDAI or otherwise directly. Whatever feedback we have got, all these authorities, they are welcoming it, because the principal opposition party as well as the governing party today, they have decided that this act should be implemented. And it is in their larger interest that they create a structure and mechanism where single window becomes a norm and it facilitates all the concerned people. I will go one step further. The basic idea behind this RERA was that we have to become transparent. Government agencies also have to do their jobs within a time frame, and most of the time now onwards is spent in ensuring that the compliance happens, the implementation happens, and for that they have to see whether we are capable enough to comply with the requirements what RERA prescribes.
Fair enough. Ashok Chhajjar, it seems to me that, expecting RERA, that was one reason. Also, the entire slowness in the market has already actually changed the industry in the last 1.5 to 2 years. A lot of developers have recognized that, you got to have a far more equitable relationship with a buyer and not a one-sided relationship which is all stacked in favor of the developer. So changes are happening. Do you think the industry is well geared to fall in the framework of the Regulator Act, and there will be an adjustment period, but it's not going to be a very painful process?
Well, the industry, though it is not geared up, it will have to accommodate to the new RERA, and this will define up the credibility of the developer also in a long run. It is going to be painful for an initial 2 to 3 years because it's almost like an policing subject from the authority side. And it has been all these years that the policing or the departments of India government has been functioning from their offices. So what about the people who have been operating and who will not get registered themselves? So the big developers who advertise and who get themselves registered will already fall into this bracket. But what about that small n number of developers who would be doing up an project of 20, 30, 50, 100 flats or houses in a single project? That is where the catch is there, how the policing would be done by the department on the ground level in the lanes where the construction is being done.
So you're saying that the gamut of just is so huge, and just by keeping that 500 square meters of development, literally every urban development would come under RERA. Gaurav Karnik, in implementation, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see?
So I think one of the bigger challenges will be how to go and monitor these projects and to make sure that the developers are going as per what they've got the approval for. And then secondly, also making sure that all real estate agents are registering with the real estate regulator. And thirdly, also to make sure that the whatever prospectus, and there are many requirements which are there on the developers, like ensuring title to land is there, or what is the carpet area that they promised and what they built. So who is going to really go and monitor it, and what is going to be the sort of workforce which will be there to monitor these things? Because when we looked at even foreign investment into the sector, we didn't have a real regulator who really tested the conditions. So when we look at the RERA come in, hopefully they will have enough man force to go and monitor these conditions and enforce them.
Okay, fair enough. Now let's recap. This is a point that we have to keep hammering in and looking at what really has the bill done, which is now just needs a presidential go-ahead to become an act. It for the home buyers is parity in delay penalty, which is actually the biggest change. You did have very, very one-sided buyer-seller agreements applicable to both residential and commercial areas, applicable to projects above 500 square meters and 8 apartments. Another big thing which led to a lot of delays, funds getting siphoned off. So now 70% funds to be kept in separate escrow account and can't be diverted. Change in layout plan to be vetted by 2/3 home buyers. And the bill says that you have to define carpet area and charge on carpet area. And the construction will only start after getting all the clearances. Sameer Jasuja, my question to you is that we know that there's a lot of buyer confidence which has gone missing. Your market, or where you sit, has been probably the biggest culprit in eroding buyer confidence because of the delay in projects and mismanagement of projects, funds, all of that. Do you think that RERA will perhaps restore that buyer confidence and bring him back to the market?
This is really a step in the right direction. However, I feel that for RERA to be able to get its act together and become a body like SEBI is going to take a good 3 to 5 years. And then one has to wait and watch as to how effective it will be. It's too new right now. Yes, the buyer confidence has been eroded, and developers should take cognizance of the fact that now there is a body where redressal can happen much quicker. There are laws which are pretty much black and white, and there will be not too many grey areas left for the developer. But one is also feeling that going forward with new launches, the developers will take enough precaution to make sure that they don't come under in the ambit of RERA as such. So, for example, if they were to commit that they will complete a project in 3 to 4 years, now they'll happily write in the buyer-seller agreement that they'll take 7 years to get completed. Yes, one good part is that the compensation paid to the consumer is going to be equal to what the developer charges from the consumer. So there are some big positives, but I think it's a good 3 to 5 years away for it to become really effective on the ground.
My God, Sabina, you're scaring us. 3 to 5 years, it can't be that long. Mr. Sharma, do you really think that it's going to take that long for it?
Can I speak, Manisha?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, in the whole scheme of things, 3 to 5 years is not much. We've had an absolute zero real estate regulator in this country for 70 years. 3 to 5 years for a regulator to understand the framework of how the real estate developers really work, how to be able to overcome the challenges that they're facing, help them restore confidence as well, besides acting as a redressal cell. It is going to take 3 to 5 years. In the larger scheme of things, it's not a very long time.
Okay, fair enough. So here's my question to you, Mr. J.C. Sharma. Do you think that, okay, there's a top level of developers such as you who's already following all good ethical practices, and you don't have a problem of becoming what we call RERA compliant? I mean, most of your business practices, other than probably the penalty parts, would be RERA compliant even now. Do you think that even before, so it might take some time for all the little nitty-gritties to get ironed out, new projects which are launched are going to be very careful about becoming RERA compliant? At least even there's no authority pulling them up, developers will decide to be RERA compliant.
Manisha, to be fair to our current authors of the RERA bill, if you go to Singapore, if you go to Dubai, there are more stringent laws and more restrictions being imposed on the developers. But still there, the real estate has blossomed and you find companies which are world class. A. B. I agree with Samir, the first part of his contention, that for a regulatory authority to comprehend and understand the nuances, it will take time. But since the Act is relatively simplified the way it is defined as far as our responsibilities are concerned, consumers' responsibilities are concerned, the requirements of disclosure norms are being concerned, it will not take much time. It is not in the interest of the developers to take a longer time of 5 to 7 years because their cash flows will get further stretched. The problem will be, according to me, is how do you transition the existing ongoing projects where occupancy certificate is not there. So there probably we'll have to go through with some kind of a transitional pain, and it has to be seen. I don't foresee for ourselves, but as an industry representative, I do know projects have been sold without approvals, money has been collected, the delays are there, and how it is going to be addressed, I cannot say right now. But when the new projects are going to be launched, the people will be competent enough to ensure that what they are going to launch, it is in their interest to complete, else it will be just a no-win, only loss kind of a scenario. The kind of penalties, the kind of imprisonment and other deterrents which have been provisioned in this Act, no developer in the right sense will do. At the same time, we must agree that we are going through with tough times. These times are not going to be lasting forever. Such kind of an Act will ensure that demand picks up, cash flows improves, and things should become better and better from now onwards. We should always be positive about introduction of this kind of a bill.
Buyer confidence will return, yes or no? Ashok Chajjar?
Yes.
It will return. I think there's already so much of excitement around RERA, even if it takes a couple of years to actually iron out, get implemented at state statutory level. I think it's a huge positive step. We'll continue to keep this discussion going because there'll be many new little things which will come into limelight, and we also have to keep the pressure on for the delays not to happen, for it to get implemented at state level. J.C. Sharma, Gaurav Karnik, Ashok Chajjar, thank you gentlemen for joining me on this discussion today.